This is Abe Freetanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm so excited to be speaking with Billy Bob Thornton about Landman. How are you today?
I'm good, Abe. How you doing, buddy?
Good, good. Can you tell me what you like most about Tommy?
I guess I like the fact that under huge pressure in every aspect of his life, in a dangerous business with a dangerous family, he still has a sense of humor. I mean, albeit a dark sense of humor, but he has a sense of humor. And that's one of my favorite parts of the character is that sometimes he just looks out the window and says, "Oh my God, look at this life." It's like, but it's a landman is really busy and is under such pressure. So if you can't kind of just shake your head at yourself, then you know it's not as easy.
I enjoy certain things like, when he hurts his finger and just goes and is like, hey, Doc, if you're not going to amputate it, I'm just going to do
Yeah.
it myself right here. And then doesn't even flinch after that. I have to assume there's some, CGI or something in there to help and actually amputate your own finger.
You know what's funny? There, well, there will be CGI. I mean, once it's off, yeah. But that whole rig that we use in there, that was, they made that, and they did a great job of it. And I have a son. My oldest son works in special effects makeup, so he was impressed. So I thought, okay, good. But yeah, I liked that scene. I liked that scene a lot because it's like, he's got no patience for this because he's got stuff to do. And it's like, look, it's just hanging by a thread. Just cut it off, will you?
Well, I think just starting, without even seeing his face, he's just, negotiating with the bag over his head. We get a very interesting idea of someone who he has a charm to him, but when you don't, when not even looking at somebody, that's especially impressive.
Yeah, that was an interesting scene. I have to say, I've done scenes in the dark and things like that before, but not completely covered up. But and you know what was amazing about that scene? It was is it was so real in there because there's no distractions. The dialogue was easy, even though there's a lot of it, because you're just in there by yourself, and you know what's going on in this situation, and so I actually enjoyed that scene a lot, and it shows you that the guy is really a tough guy who knows he has to be tough in front of these people, otherwise he won't be respected. But once the bag comes off, it's like, you know, I mean, I like Tommy because he's human, really, at the bottom, at the end of the day, rather. Yeah.
How much did you know about this world beforehand?
I knew some about it. I grew up in Arkansas and Texas, and so I knew some about it. I have a couple of friends whose dads were landmen, and uh, I knew a couple of friends who actually worked out in the oil fields, and one guy who worked on an offshore kind of rig, and so I knew some about it, and I knew what a landman was. But obviously, as you go along, you learn more and more and more. And we were fortunate enough to have Taylor and Christian Wallace, who did the podcast it was based on, whose family and he all worked in the oil business. They were there. So when I had to say something technical about the oil business, if I didn't understand it, I could just ask them. So I didn't have to do research beforehand as much because I knew the general idea. But when we would get to certain scenes, I would just say, explain this to me. Exactly what do I mean by this? Because, when actors don't know what they're saying, if they just learn the lines and then spout them off, audiences know that. I mean, you can tell if it's an honest thing or if they're just reciting lines, you know what I mean? So uh, I would ask what it meant, and that way I can give an honest performance because when I say the thing to somebody, I know exactly what that is, you know?
Right. I also enjoy all the family scenes. It's quite a an unusual dynamic, especially as everybody's telling him how attractive his daughter is, and he's saying, "Yeah, I know," and his ex-wife, who still wants to be with him. What is it like just acting a little crazy pod of people?
It's awesome. I mean, Here, I mean, a landman is so busy, has the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's trying to please an oil company executive, the guy who owns the place, his boss. He's taking care of the people that work out in the fields, but also making sure they do the job to get the oil out so I can give it to him so he makes money, and dealing with cartels and all kinds of stuff, basically a fixer. And then you go home and you have your teenage daughter walking around her underwear in front of your friends. It's like, are you kidding me? And I have my 20-year-old daughter is in college right now. So I didn't have to do any research to be protective of the daughter in the show.
I also really like the relationship, with Rebecca because I think he initially misreads her quite a bit, and she may be the least, no nonsense person besides him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it's like they have a certain respect for each other, but also in the beginning, it's just like snakes going at each other. And I really enjoyed working with Kayla, who played Rebecca. Uh, I loved those scenes because they were different. Well, really every relationship I have in the show is different with everybody, you know. And that's one of the things that really appealed to me about doing this show and playing that character. It's like it's not, you don't have huge groups of people around each other who are the same. Everybody's got their own vibe. I got a son who wants to get in the oil business, and I'm saying, dude, you don't want to do this. Trust me, I'm in it. And an ex-wife who's always circling and, loves stuff more into material possessions. Me, I barely comb my hair, and then a daughter who's so open about stuff that it's frightening. If my daughter said anything to me like Michelle does in this thing, I would probably have to go to the hospital.
Well, Taylor Sheridan, I think, has a very established fan base. How do you feel like this show compares to his other programs? Do you think audiences know what they're in for?
Well, I think they know probably just in general, that it's going to be a story about people and relationships, but with a backdrop that's huge. I think that they'll know that. Uh, I think this is very different from his other shows. For one thing, it has more humor in it, I think, than his other shows. So I think people who love his shows are going to love it, and I think maybe even some people who normally don't watch his shows are also going to love this. That might be the new thing for Landman. Yeah.
That's true. Well, if you're talking about something that's dramatic and involves plenty of death, but still has a good sense of humor, I think Goliath and Fargo are great. It's quite a trio of roles where I think it seems like you're looking for something specific, even if this is definitely the nicest and least volatile of those three characters.
So, Abe, are you telling me this could be my box set? Fargo, Goliath, and Landman?
I like it. I mean, they're certainly intense, and even though this is a very stressful job, I still feel like this is the most real. Even though, I mean, I guess Fargo, that character is oddly relaxed for how villainous he is, but
Yeah,
this is the most pleasant, despite the frequent death and explosions and
right.
kidnappings and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Well, before I let you go, this is Awards Buzz, and we're always curious. What are you watching? Have you seen anything recently, a film, a performance, a show that you feel is particularly awards worthy?
I'm going to have to catch up and look at the DVDs you guys send me because uh, I was on Landman for 5 months. Then I went on tour with the band, with the Boxmasters for 2.5 months, had 2 days off, flew to England to start press, was there 3 days, came back to LA where I am now for 3 days, going to New York next. So I haven't had a chance to watch anything. But I look forward to it because I hear there's some really great things out there right now. So I look forward to it, watching some of them.
Well, I wish you happy watching and a great launch to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.